Okay, the second thing I'm going to show you here is how to just input graphs. And so if I go up to this button here, these ones are going to be our most common ones we're going to deal with for graphing. And so I'm going to show you here, I'm just going to hit y equals. And y equals, you can think of it as like you're going to input a function, like f of x. They're calling them y on this calculator, even though we're trying to get away from that. But so this one here, y equals, and now you're going to put an equation in. And so right now I'm just going to put in y equals x. Pardon me, y equals x. And in order to put down x, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to use this key right here. You'll see an x, a t, this actually the symbol is a theta. You'll see these symbols here. We're often just going to use x. And so y equals x would be like a normal linear graph, okay? And I could input it like that. If I hit enter now, what happens is it takes me to the next graph. And maybe the next graph I want to make y is equal to x, but now I want to make it y is equal to x, and I'll show it squared. Pardon me, let me just re-enter those values again. Y equals x, and now I go down and squared, pardon me. And so you end up getting something like this. So now I have a y equals x and a y equals x squared. You'll notice down here it's showing me kind of what my graph is. Of course, you won't see this, but I'll show you how to get to those in a moment. So now that I have both these on here, I'm going to just go over and go to what is called table, right above graph. So on the second function, table. Okay, sorry, second function, now I'm going to go graph, there we go. And what it does is it shows me a table of values. And you'll notice that it's showing me, okay, when x is equal to 1, y1 is 1. When x equals 2, y2 is 2. Why? Because over here, just to remind you, in my original graph says that y is equal to x. Well, it's a 1-to-1. That's 3, that's 3, that's 4, that's 4. But my second graph, which was y2 equals x squared, or f of x equals x squared, that's of course a parabola. And what happens here is if I put 2, I get 4. If I put 3, I get 9. And you can see it increasing like this. They're showing both on here right now. You won't be able to see this unless you know how to access that. But the way I can access that is actually by hitting the button graph. So again, I got this by hitting table, but right now, and it can let me see my table of values. Of course, you can scroll down and see many values here. I can scroll down and see them. And I can keep going down here and go down the list and then just keep seeing more and more and more. Okay? But it gives you the corresponding values and you can see those very quickly. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to hit, as this thing keeps going here, I'm going to hit graph. And if I hit graph, you can see it coming up on my graphing calculator. And here's the bigger screen. But you can see there's f of x equals x, and here's f of x equals x squared. And you can see both graphs there. So you can see something neat there happen. Now, this is just basically how to view a graph, how to get a table of values. You can also do what's called tracing a graph. If I click trace, okay, right now I can see that I'm on the graph y1 equals x. Okay, so if I just, I can move along here, along the graph and click over here, and you can see what happens to my little arrow. It gets shifted along here, and every time it's giving me the values that I'm currently on. Okay, so I can do something like that. If I didn't want to do this graph and I want to do a different graph, what I would have to do is I'd have to deselect it. So if I go back to the y equals menu, maybe I don't want this graph, and so I'm going to just delete this graph for now. And then if I go back to trace, okay, I'll have a second here, there comes that graph. And now when I hit trace, now you can see that I can trace along this graph now. And so you can just switch back and forth between graphs. That's just kind of helpful to kind of trace and get an idea of where points are. You might not get the point you were looking for because again, this is just a rough estimate, but it allows you to see some things. One last thing you can do is if you ever need, you can zoom. I can zoom in. Maybe I want to zoom in here. And so if I zoom in, let's say I go to number 2 here, and I'll hit enter. And if I hit enter again, now it zooms in. So even though you've hit it, it's waiting for you to execute the command, and so now I have to hit enter again, and then it comes up. But just some things, and again, you can zoom out the same way. Just hit zoom and zoom out accordingly. So you can just go down to number 3, zoom out. I just clicked it. If I hit it again, it's going to zoom out for me and show me something like that.